You don't technically have to tell your story in the usual beginning, middle, and order. Remember, good writers know the rules and then sometimes break them.
Huh, never thought of it like that.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Book Nook. As you know, I've been working on my fantasy writing for our Magic with a Message challenge. I had my theme locked in, my character and conflict ready to go, and even my whole magical world imagined. Next, it was time to think about the plot. You know, the events of the story. Where does the story begin? What's the big turning point? How does it all end? So I checked out this book on writing, just looking for a little inspiration. And then I read this one line that really made me stop and think. Remember, good writers know the rules and then sometimes break them. I knew right then I had to make a Book Nook video about this. That line really got me thinking. Break the rules? I mean, we've learned a lot about rules on how stories are built. We know the basics. Stories have a beginning, middle, and end. Characters face problems, go on journeys, grow, and change. In fact, when I first sat down to plan out the plot, I used something we've worked with before, the hero's journey. You probably remember it, right? It's that helpful roadmap a lot of stories follow. So I started laying out my story that way, step by step. Let me show you. First, the ordinary world. Lyra is in the library, quietly studying like always. Then, the call to adventure. In my story, the leaders announced that the sacred crownwood tree is showing signs of blooming, and everyone must prove their worth. Next, we have facing challenges. The trials begin. Everyone is showing off, lifting weights, showing how strong they are, sword fighting to show their bravery and courage, even talking, like really loud, trying to be the center of attention. Lyra just wants to be there as a scholar, observing and taking notes. She struggles with staying back or stepping up to show a different kind of leadership. Up next is a major moment, the big test. Lyra ends up right in front of the crownwood tree, even though she never planned to. Two competitors are arguing loudly nearby, each trying to outshine the other. Lyra quietly steps in to help them understand each other. She listens, she speaks calmly, and it works. The argument settles. The crownwood tree begins to bloom because she led with kindness and care. And finally, return changed. The world sees leadership in a new way. Lyra does too. She helps lead her kingdom back to greatness. What do you think? Pretty good plot so far, huh? And now that I'm reading this book, I'm wondering, what if I don't have to tell the story in that exact order? What if I'm ready to do what good writers sometimes choose to do? Break the rules just a little and start with a different moment. One that might make the story even more exciting and powerful. Which moment in this journey feels the most exciting to you? Which moment might make for a good starting point? Could it be Lyra deep in the library, quietly observing? The suspense of the first trial? Or maybe the moment when the tree starts to bloom? Pause here and jot down the part that pulls you in the most. What moment sticks? Choosing your opening moment changes everything, right? It sets the mood and decides how your reader steps into the world. I've been testing out one idea I found in my writing book, and it's kind of my new favorite move. It's called in medias res, which is just a really fancy way of saying in the middle of things. Think of it like this. Bam! Something big is already happening and the reader has to catch up fast. It's a great way to hook someone right from the start. Why would a writer drop us into the biggest moment right away instead of building up to it? How might that change how a reader feels about the story? Using that in medias res trick and starting with a major moment can help your reader understand the kind of story they're reading right from the start. When I thought about in medias res, one moment stood out. Lyra at the tree just as it starts to bloom. That felt huge It's where her quiet leadership shifts everything, and that's my story's theme. So I asked myself, what if I began right there? Yeah, let's do it. Let's start in the middle of the action. Lyra stands before the glowing, blooming tree. All eyes are on her. And in that hush, she wonders, how did I even get here? Then I could flash back to the ordinary world, the library, her quiet life, to tell the reader a little more about who Lyra is. Then comes the call to adventure and the challenges to show how we got to that moment at the tree. Then back to the big test, but this time we understand what it means because we've seen what Lyra went through to get there. Finally, we'll have Lyra return home changed and resolve the story. Nice. Even though I changed the order, I didn't lose the steps of the hero's journey. I'm just revealing them in a new way. You can still follow the path, just with a twist. Pause here and jot down how this kind of structure will help make my story exciting and meaningful. Planning and structuring my fantasy story in this way helps me show my message even more clearly. Starting with a moment at the Crownwood tree can help show how important Lyra's quiet leadership really is, before we even know the full story. It will make the reader curious. It might make them wonder, how did this quiet girl end up here? Then, by going back and showing everything she did to get to that moment, the reader can understand her growth even more. Every choice I make as an author, like where to begin my story and the order to tell it in, can help support my theme. Quiet people can be strong leaders. So as you decide the order of your story, just ask yourself, does this order still help show what I believe? Okay, time for you to get writing. Start by mapping out your 5 key story parts of the hero's journey, just like I did. Then play around with the plot. Figure out which structure best fits your message. You might try a dramatic middle of the action beginning, or maybe you have another structure switch in mind. You may even decide to use a classic hero's journey, and that's totally okay. Tell the story in any way that feels right for you and your story's message. You can use index cards, sticky notes, or the guided notes we've included to move pieces around and test different paths. All right, happy writing, everyone. And until next time, keep working on those goals. Bye. Hey, hey.